Muscle metabolism. Muscle metabolism. Goals. Describe 3 ways in which ATP is regenerated during muscle contraction. Relate the oxygen deficit to causes of muscle fatigue. Muscle metabolism. Muscle have only a 4 to 6 seconds supply of ATP. ATP must be continually regenerated via one of 3 pathways in the muscle. Muscle metabolism. Direct phosphorylation of ADP by creatine phosphate. These pathways are direct phosphorylation of ADP by creatine phosphate, anaerobic glycolysis, aerobic respiration, muscle metabolism. Creatine phosphate phosphorylation. Active muscles can use all ATP within a few twitches. Creatine phosphate is a high-energy storage molecule. The transfer of its high-energy phosphate to ADP can provide up to 16 seconds of ATP in a muscle. Creatine phosphate is regenerated during rest. It's money for health food companies. Muscle metabolism. Creatine phosphate phosphorylation. This pathway is used for very quick bursts of muscle activity, such as sprinting. Figure 9.19a Pathways for regenerating ATP during muscle activity. Coupled reaction of creatine, phosphate, CP, and ADP. Energy source, CP. A. Direct phosphorylation. Oxygen use, none. Products, 1 ATP per camp, creatine. Duration of energy provision, 15 seconds. Creatine, kinase, ADP, CP, ATP. Muscle metabolism. Glycolysis and lactic acid formation. This pathway generates ATP after the creatine phosphate system is exhausted. Actively contracting muscles compress arteries, reducing blood flow and oxygen. This produces anaerobic conditions which produce lactic acid. Figure 9.19b Pathways for regenerating ATP during muscle activity. Energy source, glucose. Glycolysis and lactic acid formation. B. Anaerobic pathway. Oxygen use, none. Products, 2 ATP per glucose, lactic acid. Duration of energy provision, 60 seconds, or slightly more. Glucose, from glycogen breakdown or delivered from blood. Glycolysis, in cytosol. Pyruvic acid, released to blood. Net gain, 2. Lactic acid, O2. ATP. Muscle metabolism. Glycolysis and lactic acid formation. This pathway only produces about 5% as much ATP as aerobic respiration but does it twice as fast. This pathway extends the ATP supply up to 1 minute of vigorous activity. Short duration exercise. Figure 9.20 Comparison of energy sources used during short duration exercise and prolonged duration exercise, 1 of 2. Short duration exercise. ATP stored in muscles is used first. ATP is formed from creatine, phosphate, and ADP. Glycogen stored in muscles is broken down to glucose, which is oxidized to generate ATP. It coincides with muscle fatigue. Muscle metabolism. Glycolysis and lactic acid formation. The big lie by state head department. The buildup of lactic acid does not lead to muscle soreness following exercise. It coincides with muscle fatigue. Muscle metabolism. Muscle fatigue. Muscle fatigue is the inability to contract even in the presence of stimuli. Muscle metabolism. Muscle fatigue. Muscle fatigue is the inability to contract even in the presence of stimuli. It is not due to a lack of ATP. This would lead to contractures. This is seen with writer's cramp, muscle metabolism, muscle fatigue. Ionic disturbances are the most likely cause of muscle fatigue. Potassium ion lost from the muscle cells. Interference of calcium regulation. Muscle metabolism, aerobic respiration. This pathway produces 95% of the ATP. This pathway occurs in the mitochondria and requires oxygen. Muscle metabolism, aerobic respiration. Muscle metabolism, aerobic respiration. Muscle glycogen provides the major source of glucose, followed by blood glucose and then fats. It provides the most ATP but is slower because of all the enzymatic steps. Figure 9.19. See pathways for regenerating ATP during muscle activity. Energy source, glucose, pyruvic acid. Free fatty acids from adipose tissue. Amino acids from protein catabolism. C. Aerobic pathway. Aerobic cellular respiration. Oxygen use, required. Products, 32 ATP per glucose, CO2, H2O. Duration of energy provision, hours. Glucose, from glycogen breakdown or delivered from blood. 32 O2 H2O. CO2, pyruvic acid, fatty acids, amino. Aerobic respiration. In mitochondria. ATP. Net gain per glucose. Prolonged duration exercise. Figure 9.20. Comparison of energy sources used during short duration exercise and prolonged duration exercise. 2 of 2. Prolonged duration exercise. ATP is generated by breakdown of several nutrient energy fuels by aerobic pathway. This pathway uses oxygen released from myoglobin or delivered in the blood by hemoglobin. When it ends, the oxygen deficit is paid back. Muscle metabolism, aerobic respiration. This pathway is used for long periods of exercise such as cross-country and marathon events. Muscle metabolism comparisons. Deep down we are all turkeys. Muscle fiber type. Deep down we are all turkeys. Deep down we are all turkeys. Remember white meat / dark meat. Muscle fiber type. Deep down we are all turkeys. Remember white meat / dark meat. Muscle fiber type. Muscle fibers are divided into two types based on their metabolism. Slow oxidative fibers, red meat. Aerobic. Myoglobin present, red color. Large number of mitochondria. Low glycogen content. Slow rate of fatigue. Good for endurance activities. Muscle fiber type. Muscle fibers are divided into two types based on their metabolism. 2. Fast glycolytic fibers. Anaerobic. Myoglobin content is low, white color. Glycogen content is high. Fatigues quickly. Few mitochondria. Short-term intense movements, muscle fiber type. A third muscle type. The fast oxidative fiber has characteristics of both muscle types. These muscle can convert to the other types based on training. Adaptation to exercise. Endurance exercising will increase the number of capillaries surrounding the muscle fibers, Y. Increase the number of mitochondria, Y. May convert some of the fast glycolytic fibers to fast oxidative fibers. Increase the efficiency of the heart, Y. Adaptation to exercise. Resistance exercising will increase the size of the muscle fibers. Increase the amount of connective tissue between the fibers. May convert some of the to fast oxidative fibers to fast glycolytic fibers. Adaptation to exercise. Adaptation to exercise. Large bulky muscles are due to the increased size of individual muscle fibers, fast glycolytic fibers,